Good morning, Year 8. I hope you are well and you've adjusted back to home learning with week number 8 of learning from home. So here we are with our solutions video for this week. So it should say 6.2.1 in the corner, and we'll get going with the answers, okay? So number 1, it just is adding the fractions, okay? So we've already got a common denominator, so all we need to do is add the two numerators. So 5 plus 1 is 6, and then we leave the denominator the same. So we've got 6/8. Now actually that's not quite as good as it gets because it's not in its simplest form. What can we do? Well, we have to do the same to the top as the bottom. So I could divide the top by 2 and get 3, just halving it. And I could divide the bottom by 2 and get 4. So my answer would be 3/4, or 3/4. Now the next one is a subtraction. So again, I get to leave the denominator the same because they're already the same. And then I can do 3 minus 1, because those are the numerators, and I would get 2. So my answer would just be 2/7. Okay, on to the next one. So it says 1,100 divided by 100. So I count how many zeros I've got in my 100. I've got 2, and I take it back that many. So I go back 1, and I can get rid of that 0. I go back another, and I can get rid of that 0. So there we are. My answer is 11. Now on the next one, again, it's divided by 1,000. So I just count the amount of zeros. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and I just cross those off this one. So 1, 2, 3. So my final answer there is the number 10. Okay, so on to the next one. It says 100 millimeters is how many centimeters? So I know that 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. So that means all I have to do is take my 100 millimeters and divide it by 10 to find out how many centimeters there are. So if I divide 100 by 10, I get 10. So I know that 100 millimeters equals 10 centimeters. Now it's the same again because I already know that 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. So again, all I've got to do is take my millimeters and divide it by 10. So 60 divided by 10, I take off the 0, equals 6. So that means I'm left with 6 centimeters as my answer. So the next one says, write in figures 63,509. So we've got our 63,000, that's nice and simple. So after thousands, which is our 3, comes hundreds. So I know that I've got 5 hundreds. Now tens comes next, but I don't have any tens, but you have to remember to write your 0 there, okay? And then finally, I've got my 9 units, so I can just pop that one there. So I should have 63,509 written like this. On to the next one then. So it says 500, 7 units, and 9 hundredths. So we'll start with my 5, that's in my hundreds column. Now after hundreds comes tens, but I don't have any tens, so I've got to write my 0. Now after tens comes units. Well, that's good because I've got 7 of those. Now after units comes tenths, but I don't have any of those again, so I can write 0. And then after tenths comes hundredths, okay, so that means I'm left with my 9 there, okay? So I should have 507.09. Okay, so on to the next one. Find the missing number. So something times 9 equals 54. So all I've got to do for these ones is go backwards. So I've got to do the answer, and then I take this operation here and I do the opposite. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I do 54 divided by 9. Okay, now 54 divided by 9 equals 6. Okay, so that's our answer for the question mark. But the good news about this one is we can always test it. If I put 6 where the question mark is and times it by 9, then I can test whether I'm correct. And 6 times 9 does indeed equal 54, so I know that I'm correct. Now the next one's actually even easier. So this time I start with my answer and I do the opposite of this operation. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So I do 9 minus 6 equals 3. Okay, now I can test it by putting 3 here and then adding 6, and it does equal 9. So I know that I'm correct. On to the next one then. So This time we are taking away. So we're taking away 6,971 and we're taking away 6,893 from it. So 3 from 1. Well, we can't do that, so we'll have to cross this out and we'll borrow a 10 from there. So 3 from 11 is 8. 9 from 6. Well, I can't do that, so I'm going to have to borrow 1 from this column. So now I've got 9 from 16, which equals 7. 8 from 8, well, good news, I can do that and I get a 0. And 6 from 6 is also 0. So there's my final answer, 78. Okay? On to the next one then. Now we have to be careful here because look, we've got an extra digit on one of them, okay? We've ended up in our 10,000s column for this one. So we've got 17,172 take away 6,383. Imaginary 0 there. So 3 from 2, well, I can't do that, so I'm going to have to borrow 1 from over here. So 3 from 12 is 9, so we'll put our 9 here. 8 from 6, well, I can't do that, so that becomes a 0, and that becomes 16. So 8 from 16 is 8. I don't know where that line's come from, I'm sorry. 3 from 0, I can't do that either. So now we've got 10 here. So 3 from 10 is 7. 6 from 6 is 0. An imaginary 0 there. So 0 from 1 is 1. So we should have 10,789 as our final answer for that one. Okay, so question 13 says complete the equivalent fraction. 5 over 9 equals 25 over something. So I've got to figure out, how do we get from 5 to 25? What do we times 5 by to get to there? Well, we times it by 5. Now, once I've figured out that, I can just do the same to the bottom. So because 5 times 5 is 25, 9 times 5 is 45. So that's our answer. Equivalent just means the same. So 5 over 9 is the same as 25 over 45. Next one then. This time they've given me the denominator. So I've gone from 3 to 33. And I've got to figure out how I got there. What did I times 3 by to get to 33? Well, I can work that out by doing 33 divided by 3. And that's 11. So I know that we've done 3 times 11. So we've just got to do the same to the top. So 2 times 11 is 22. So 2 over 3 is the same as 22 over 33. Next one then. So we've got minus 10 and we've got 0. And these just tell us which one's bigger. So the big end always, so the end that's open always faces towards the bigger number. So what's bigger? Minus 10 or 0. So with negative numbers, the closer they are to 0, the bigger they are. Okay, so minus 10 on a number line, 0 would be here, and then all the minus numbers would go down to minus 10, then all the positive numbers would go up here, okay? So in this case, our 0 is bigger because it's not negative. Now here we've got minus 15 and we've got minus 16. Now on a number line from 0, we'd go minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, etc. So the number that's bigger is the one that's closest to 0. Okay, so actually this time minus 15 is bigger than minus 16. Okay, so next up it says 60 times 30. Now, we don't need to do that, we just need to do 6 times 3. So 6 times 3 is 18, and then we can just add in our missing zeros, okay? So we've got 1,800. And we can do the same here. We can just do 4 times 8, which is 32, and then add in our missing zeros. So we get 3,200. Now for our final ones, it says express 3 over 2 as a mixed number. So I'm going to ask myself, how many of the bottom number fit into the top number? How many 2's go into 3? Well, only 1. And once I've taken my 2 out of my 3, I've got 1 left over. So I've got 1/2 left over because I had 3 halves, but that's the same as 1 1/2. Now it's the same for the last one. I asked myself, how many 3's fit into 11? Well, if we do our 3 times table, we get 3, 6, 9, 12. So it's 3 because 3, 6, 9. Now if I've already taken away 9 out of 11, that means I've got 2 left over. So I write 2 at the top, and then I've got my thirds at the bottom. So the answer there is 3 2/3. So hopefully you've marked those out of 20 and you've done really well. And if you've got any wrong, make sure you've corrected them. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely weekend, and your next maths work will be set on Monday. Bye bye.